Can I take this Marshall and put it inside this box successfully? That's what you want to know. That's the question I aim to answer in this video. It's Saturday night and I'm messing around in the studio. I thought I'd make a quad Cortex preset. And I want to start from scratch, making a capture of one of my amps. And then I thought, why don't I capture a pedal too? Because I haven't even tried to do that yet. Can't do like modulation pedals and delay pedals and things like that, but anything kind of EQ and gain based. So think overdrive pedals, distortion pedals, guitar amps, speaker cabinets, anything that's shaping the kind of the drive tone and the overall sound EQ wise. You can make a capture. I'm gonna capture a drive pedal, gonna capture my old Marshall JMP 50, capture the amp, capture the pedal, put it in there, and then build like around it just like I would with a real rig, like maybe add some reverb, and add delay, and add, maybe a phaser or univibe or something like that in front, and just make a cool kind of all-around preset that's great for rhythm, kick on a boost, and it's great for lead with maybe some echo, that kind of thing. This is the amp I'm going to capture. It's my stock 1972 50 watt JMP Marshall. You can see the EQ and volume settings. I'm running right into the top left volume 1 input, and these are kind of my stock rock and roll settings with this amp. So I guess the first thing we should do is capture the amp sound. So let's get to that. I'm going to get everything plugged in here, and then we're going to listen to just the guitar tone, just guitar into the amp, into the cabinet. I'm going to blend the mics, because one thing that I got going here that's really cool is the ability to blend a couple of mics on a cabinet in the other room. And I've just started to use actually a 421 in combination with a 57, which is a classic rock and roll combo. Here's my Marshall cab, flipped upside down, which I dig, so the bottom speakers become the top speakers. And you can see I'm using the 421 and the 57 on two different speakers. The 57 is an old standby, of course, and I've used it for years and always combined it, generally speaking, with a ribbon mic. But the 421 is a new thing for me. It's a dynamic mic, it's a classic as well, and it's a classic rock and roll combination using those two mics together. I've just never been able to get a sound that I particularly liked with the 421. But I was reading an article with Sylvia Massey, and she was talking about how she used it on Tool, System of a Down, all kinds of stuff like that to get really cool heavy guitar tones. And what she does is on two different speakers, she's got the 57 on one, the 421 on the other, and she puts them both basically where the cap meets the edge of the cone. So right in the center of the speaker you got the cap, and right where it goes into the cone, the paper of the cone, that's right where she'll put the microphone. And I've known that that's, of course, a great place to put a 57 for years. I just tried to spend a little bit more time placing the 421, and I got a tone I was really happy with. So here's the sound of the two mics blended right now. I'm going to turn off the 421. You can hear just the 57. Okay, so it's that sizzle on the top end and that kind of gut punch, it just sounds really cool. Sounds great. If I had to use one mic alone, that would be fine. I'm going to turn on the 421 now and turn off the 57. So this is just the 421. And you can hear that it's much more mids, no fizz, which is really nice, and it's really rich through the mid-range. So when I combine them together, and if I pull the 421 all the way down, I'll just hit a chord and play. At first you'll just hear the 57, then you'll hear me blend in the 421 right now. Okay, so it does a cool thing, it just fills out through the mids and it gives it a richness and kind of takes a little bit of that, sizzly fizzy edge off that the 57 gives. And yeah, just a little bit richer sounding. So this is a combo that I'm going to go with here for my capture. Important thing to note if you're going to do captures of guitar amplifiers using the quad Cortex. On the send from the quad Cortex going to the front of the guitar amplifier, when you're doing the capture, you're going to need to use an isolation transformer. Okay, there's a little ground loop that happens between the quad Cortex and the guitar amp when it's set up to do the capture process. This is common. Any of you folks out there that do 4-cable method with, say, a Helix, you've probably noticed the same thing. You need to run an iso transformer between the send of the Helix going to the front end of the guitar amp. Well, this is no different. So you just get a little ground loop going there. So this will help keep things quiet, make the capture accurate, and you won't be going, where's all that buzz coming from? So I'm using an EBTech 2-channel hum eliminator. I just use one channel of it. Send out of the quad Cortex into the input of this, output of this to the front end of your guitar amp, and you'll be all good. There's also exact same style of unit you can get from Palmer. There's one from Samson that's quite inexpensive as well. It works just as good. I'll put pictures of those up on the screen so you can check those out. Okay, so now we're going to capture. Okay, so they're pretty darn close. I am finding pretty much every time that I do captures that there's a little bit of a difference in sound. Right before I started doing this video, I was listening to a video that Danish Pete and Rabia did. They were capturing drives and then running them in front of, like, I think a twin reverb model in the quad Cortex. And pretty much every time they found it was maybe a little bit less gain and a little bit darker. Right in the unit, they just went straight in and they tweaked up the treble just a little bit on the drives, and they're like, yeah, that's there. Change the gain a little bit, yeah, that's there. Just point being, real world experience here, what I'm finding is the captures ever so slightly darker and ever so slightly less gain, and then you can go in and just tweak it once it's in the capture and set it up in your preset however you want. Okay, so now what I want to do, because I'm pretty happy with that, I think that's a cool tone, I'm going to go in and try and capture my Sir Cocoa Boost. This is an awesome pedal for lead that will work great in front of this kind of old Marshall tone, which can tend to be a little loose, can tend to use a little bit of a targeted boost, and doesn't really need more overdrive. You can push the tube stage of the Marshall, basically like the front end of the amp, into more drive. You don't really need to add more overdrive, I find, via pedal. I mean, you can. TS-808, whatever, 250 like Yngwie used, that kind of thing. But you can also go in and just hit it with a targeted kind of boost, like the mid boost coming out of the Coco, and it's going to drive the front end of the amp into more sustain and also add some mids, and it's just really great for lead. And you can see kind of the settings I've got going there on the pedal. That's kind of how I'm going to capture it. That's how I really like to use this pedal. I haven't tried capturing a pedal yet, so this is all new to me. Here we go. Let's do it. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do here before capturing the pedal is actually dial it in front of the amp. So I'm listening to it, and it sounds really good. There's three different sort of frequencies that you can pick on the Coco to boost, and I can't decide which one I like better, so I'm going to make captures of both of them. So one of them's like sort of higher mids, and one of them's sort of like more mid-mids or lower mids. And the mid-mids or lower mids one sounds a little looser because it's down there in the low end a little bit more, but it also sounds really fat when you play up high on the neck, so that's cool. But I like the cutting nature of the other one. So I'm just going to show you what they both sound like right now. So without the pedal. Okay, so for the purpose of capturing a pedal, you don't have an amp plugged in, so it doesn't sound like entirely pleasant, but I'm just playing through the pedal, you know, it's looped into the quad Cortex the way it's supposed to be hooked in. And you can hear that when it's on, it's adding quite a bit of gain there to the sound and everything. But, you know, so I've got all my levels set and everything, and it should capture the pedal, I hope, pretty accurately, so let's give it a go. Okay, so the capture's done, and I can go back and forth between the Cortex capture and the reference tone, which is still the pedal. I'm just using the camera audio for this, but it sounds pretty damn near identical to me. I mean, I guess it's probably a pretty simple thing to capture a pedal when, you know, we're talking about an entire amp and cabinet and everything. It's so much more complicated, but it's pretty much, you know, the exact same sound. So I'm going to store that. This is the lower mid-range setting, so I'm going to go and put the switch into the other position on the Coco now, capture the upper mid-range boost, and put it in the box, and then we're going to try it in front of my captured amp. Okay, so I put my virtual Coco Boost in the preset now, and I've got it assigned to a foot switch here, a foot switch E, which is really easy to do. It's so easy to assign effects to foot switches. So anyway, it's in there, and I'm going to directly A/B it now. I'm using the low-mid boost, just for example here. And so here's without it. Turning it on. Let's hear the real pedal. Okay, so once again, I think maybe, if anything, the sound is ever so slightly like less level. Like, so it sounds like it's hitting the front end of my virtual amp a little less hard than the real one is. Maybe. I mean, it's really, really close. So what I'm going to do is just experiment with turning up the volume control a little bit here. Just boosting a little bit of the level coming out of it. So I'll bring it up like 3 dB. The 601.5 doesn't the other at this point. It sounds really, really close. Okay, so let's move on. Let's start putting some more stuff in this preset. I just threw a vibe in there because I like vibe and it sounds pretty cool. One thing I like to do with vibe sometime is lower the intensity, which you can do in here. It's great. There's an intensity control. So I brought it down to like 67%. When it's on 10, it's just, sometimes it's a little overbearing for me. I like that. I'm gonna add a reverb now too, so where's the reverb? There's reverb. Let's go to a room. So I've got the reverb there, and what I want to do is do it in parallel actually, because I want to be able to just blend it in while having the dry sound go through to an echo that's not on the reverb. So I'm going to grab the reverb and just pull it down like that, drops it into the lower path, and automatically just gives you that second kind of through path. Now what I want to do is maybe make it so that what's feeding it is right after the amp capture. So I simply just drag over there. Now what's happening is coming right out of my amp capture. It's getting a second path and going through the reverb there. That'll allow me to run the reverb just 100% wet. I'm going to turn the mix all the way up to 100%. Okay, and then I can just blend in the verb at whatever level that I want. I'm hungry, so I'm going to finish up for today. I stored my preset, and tomorrow I'm going to add an echo in there and just tweak it, and then I'll see if I can come up with a piece of music using this preset and some of the different effects that I've got in there. And I'll also spend a little bit of time dialing in a delay, and I'm going to show you that a little bit closer on the screen, like how I dial in a delay for a sound like this, all that good stuff. Okay, so see you tomorrow. Alright, so it's a new day, and let's add some echo. I already did it. I added a delay. It's in the A path, coming right after the amp capture. So there it is. It's the tape delay. So this tape delay is stereo. There's also a mono tape delay. I'm using the stereo one. I tend to use the mono one, of course, if it's coming before an amp, because it's going to be mono anyway. It's going to hit a mono amp and go mono no matter what. But if I'm running a delay, generally speaking for solos, I like stereo delay. Now, the one exception would be if the track is really, really busy rhythmically with rhythm guitars and stuff going on, and you want to keep more of a pinpointed focused thing going on right up the middle, then sometimes I'll use a mono delay, even if it's post-amp, just to not cloud up the stereo spectrum with too much stuff bouncing around. Makes sense, right? I want to play a little bit with the high end of the delay, so using the low-pass filter. Let's take the high end all the way up. So we'll crank up the low-pass filter all the way, and this is going to make the delay go out to about 6K. Here's the way it sounds. Okay, I'm going to darken that up considerably now. I'm going to bring it all the way down to just a little below 2K and listen. Okay, now the delay is considerably murkier, and it kind of sits behind the core guitar tone better. So that's a little bit too dark for me. So I'm going to bring it up to about 3K, and just leave it around there. And that's nice. Just sits behind the core guitar sound. It doesn't cloud up the dry guitar sound too much. The other parameter I'll mention on here, I've got the wow and flutter up a little bit, so it's adding a little bit of, modulation, essentially, primitive modulation to the delay. But also there's the drive control. And the drive control will let you saturate the delay a bit more. So it sounds like when you hit a tape delay really hard with a lot of level, sometimes, the record head would, the whole tape delay would saturate basically, and the delay is somewhat distorted at that point. So if we bring it all the way down so there's no distortion, sounds like that, turning it up. It's got even a little bit of hiss to it and a little bit of grind in the delay itself. So we're going to set that about half because I like my delay a little dirty. It's got more character and it's just part of the tape delay sound. Okay, so that's my echo. And by the way, got it set for about 4 or 5 repeats at 25% on the feedback. And this is basically how I set up my delays a lot for solos or lead sounds. I'll either use this or I'll use a digital delay, which is cleaner, and both of those I can kind of get by with. But yeah, I just decided to go with the tape delay today. All right, crazy rocker guitar player people, my preset is done. I've named it Badass JMP, and I've come up with a little piece of music so that I can perform and demonstrate this preset. So I'm going to play this guitar for all the parts in this track you're about to hear. I also played bass with the quad Cortex, and if there's anything going on, like if I'm switching the effects in and out and stuff, I'll mention it on the screen in some text. All right, here we go. Thanks for watching my video on making my badass JMP capture and my Cocoa Boost capture, putting them inside my quad Cortex, and making a badass JMP preset. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't think that they sound exactly the same as the real hardware, but I think they come really close, and there's absolutely no question, and I think you must all agree, that these things are fantastic tools. I'm really enjoying using this thing. You can check it out further at the link down in the video description below. Click there, it'll take you to more info on the quad Cortex. Hey, please hit subscribe if you haven't. Hit the little bell beside the subscribe so you'll get an alert every time I put out a new video. If you enjoyed the video, please share it far and wide. I'd really appreciate it. Come back and see me for more videos real soon. I'm Pete Thorn. Take care.